Okay, so we're gonna talk about the first 5 chapters of Tituba. I decided to stop at chapter 5 because there's so much that happened in that first. There's so much that happened. So first things first, we have Tituba has given us a family history of how her family even arrived in Barbados. Um, she's given us her lineage, and that part is super important. And remembering that this is historical fiction, as is a fictionalized account of her life, but she has given us her lineage and where she comes from. I think it's beautiful how we talk about um, how we discuss what family becomes, or what becomes family in the space of slavery, and bondage. Like, sorry, I'm moving the camera around. We discuss what family ultimately looks like, and how family comes together, who cares for you. And that's discussed when we meet Mama Yaya, and how she comes to be under Mama Yaya's tutelage. Um, this is just wild. These first 5 chapters is just wild to me. Um, I am in my head about these first 5 chapters, like for real, like really, really in my head. Um, because we see Yao come in and love Abina, her mother, and Abina is not able to really, really accept any space of love in such a negative and chaotic space. And we got to look at that and how that affected Tituba. And then once Abina's beyond the veil, she's free to love, and then she becomes overprotective, which I'm gonna write about that in the write up. I find that to be pretty beautiful. But then I also see some really contemporary themes of not teaching women about how to date, or how to manage your own power where men are concerned. Tituba, for all intents and purposes, comes from a 2-parent home, and she's still taught to be afraid of men and to shy away from men in lieu of her gifts and being a woman. And then a lot of what she learns about men is kind of idealized, because Yao is a good man. He's a good man in the face of all of this craziness that they have going on. He's a good guy. He's a kind-hearted man. And so, obviously when Tituba meets John Indian, she gravitates towards what feels good about him versus actually seeing the man. I'm floored by her decisions to abandon all that she's built, all that she is, to go live with John Indian. She doesn't even know anything about him. She didn't take the time to know him. She didn't take the time to know anything about what he has going on in his world. And yet, even working through this in her mind, she still reasons with herself that this is where she should go. Despite Mama Yaya and Abina being her fiercest allies beyond the veil and letting her know what to expect, she's still like, yeah, I'm gonna go on it on my own, which is wild to me. I think the other thing that really, really strikes me in these first 5 chapters is seeing a woman who does not understand her power. It's interesting to me that everyone else sees it, and everyone else has given her an identity. And Tituba does not, she doesn't resonate with the identity that they gave her, which is, I mean, and it partly makes sense, right? Because she's like, listen, I don't hurt people, I heal people. But they know who she comes from and that she has the ability to harm if she wanted to. And Tituba just continues, oh no, that's not me. Women do that way too often. And we give, and that's how we end up giving our power away. But just, no, it's not what I intend to do. But you could if you wanted to. There's a piece where they're like, oh, she could just blow down the whole island, and she's like, no, I heal people. And she doesn't recognize her power. She has the gifts, she can use the gifts, but she doesn't understand the power in who she is. So, I mean, the author does a great job of setting up this arc for her. And it's super relatable as a woman, that sometimes you don't understand it. Other people see it. Other people see your potential. Other people see your gifts. Other people see your skills. And this is what's crazy. What other people saw kept her protected. She broke her own protection. They were going to leave her alone on the strength that she was raised by Mama Yaya and she's Abina's daughter. They were going to leave her alone in that hut. Nobody was going to bother her. They had left her alone for years. And as a matter of fact, when Darnell when Darnell leaves the plantation and the other plantation owner comes in and buys the plantation, but not the slaves, and leaves her and says, oh, you were a squatter. She doesn't recognize the protection that was there. You weren't just left behind. You were protected. You were protected. And she doesn't recognize that. And that's what's so wild to me. But ideally, in these first 5 chapters, she's super young. She's not even probably about like 18 quite yet. So she's super duper young. So I see her almost as like, when she meets the other folks on the island, John Indian and his friends, this is almost like her coming of age of like going away to college and having to meet people, because she hasn't really been around anybody but the ghosts of and the spirits of her mother and Mama Yaya. So I'm excited to get into the next portion of this book. Read the write-up that I have posted. And if you have read this book, talk to me about what you think about chapters 1 through 5.